What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lunch with the Clydesdale. I'm so pumped, so honored, so jazzed up to have with me the one and only. He goes by a lot of names: Jay Birch, Papa Birch, actor, judge, teacher, Jeffrey Birchfield. So with me in the house. What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much, man. It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So we're gonna do Top 5 Tuesday today. Today is television shows of all time. We're going to get into a little bit. Kenneth DeLapp says El Jefe. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the news in the space today, but I want to get to know you a little bit better. I know you're a retired teacher. You just retired within the year. How's that first year off going for you?
So far so good. It's my summer was spent watching my grandson for the most part. He's nonverbal autistic. He's 9 years old. So we had a lot going on this summer, but it's moving right along. I've had a million projects around we live in a house. It's a little over 100 years old. And so I've had trees that have fallen down that I've needed to cut. I've had windows to replace. And so the retirement, while not teaching, I'm still as busy as ever.
And you moved to help take care of your grandson.
I did. We already had a house in Hamilton, Texas, which is a small agrarian community in Central Texas, about a little less than 2,700 people, I guess. And we were living in Pflugerville outside of Austin, which is a city suburban city of about 60,000.
Okay. So then at your new place, you have a shed, a tent. What do we call the workout space?
And so that's Camp Pay Him. And so as you can see, we've got Pay Him stuff on. I owe everything that I am as far as like athletic wise, as far as the last few years or several years since 2019 to Josh Bridges. So just a little shout out to him. But I've built me a workout space in my backyard using, one of those standard little tent things. And then I've just put all my equipment out there, and that's where I get after it.
So a while back, gosh, probably a couple of years, I was interviewing Cooper Marsh, and you were in the chat, and he talked about how you would come to these Train with Joshes, or are they called Pay the Man?
They're Pay Him camps is what they're called.
Camps. And you would come and you got to be really friendly with Josh and Cooper and all those guys. What was that experience like?
It was, you couldn't find a more personable and helpful group of guys. It was a fairly intimate situation. There's usually about 25 to 27 people that are there. And the one that I attended was in San Diego at Josh's house in the garage where he started all of his videoing and everything of his workouts. And so it was kind of iconic just to go work out there. But we also went to Quape, which is a mountain there in San Diego where Josh used to run and do a lot of training. And so we had that opportunity to go and kind of do that with him and have some conversation. And so it was really an awesome experience. And, the funny thing is Cooper, I started doing Pay Him stuff or following Josh's programming around 2019, but I was also kind of doing some of his supplement stuff with X Endurance. Well, Cooper at the time worked for X Endurance and challenged me to do Karen after taking one of their products. And that's kind of how me and Cooper got acquainted. And it's funny, I was supposed to do Karen, and then I'd wait a week and do it again to retest it. Well, it seemed like my programming started kind of following the schedule of how to build up to a better Karen. so I asked Cooper, I said, so do you like know Josh or something?
Yeah.
And yeah, it just so happened that he did, and things just worked out. And we've been, I would say that we've been friends for a while now.
And then you also know Bethany Flores, when she lived in Austin, I'm assuming.
Yeah. First CrossFit athlete I ever worked with, as far as like going and working out with. And so I hear a lot of stories about people who go to CrossFit for their first time, and they may be scared, they, this or that. Well, imagine going to a Saturday meetup where it's just kind of everybody. It's not a formal class, and Bethany is the one that's actually doing the workout and programming the workout for you to do. And so it's a little scary, but I mean, she kept, she made us feel right at home, and I mean, it was awesome. And so I went several more times, and that kind of got me into the box and actually a little more into the methodology than what I'd been in previous times.
Yeah. Going to Christy O'Connell's gym.
Yeah.
It was crazy because there's big events here in Columbus, like the Arnold Fitness Expo, and a lot of the CrossFit athletes would drop in, and then they would drop into her gym because they knew her. And so you'd walk in on a day and there's just Medeiros warming up, or there's, and you're just like, holy crap, I got to work out in front of these people, but they're just normal people at the end of the day.
Right.
Well, that's really cool. And I want to thank you so much for taking time out, jumping on the show with me. Wow, that's crazy. Corey, first, Kenneth says, I heard that the first rule of Payam Camp is that you don't talk about Payam Camp.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell you everything that happens at Payam Camp.
Yeah. I'm sure you're sworn to secrecy. Corey, sorry I'm late. It's snowing its ass off down here. It is.
Yeah, man, I saw that.
Coast. Holy cow.
Yeah, I just saw a post of Moss that does uplift.
Yep.
And he's like doing thrusters or something in the snow, and he lives up in Clydesdale, just north of New Orleans.
Yeah, I lived in Tallahassee, Florida for 4 years. It snowed one time there, and it shut the city down. Like, just,
yeah.
There's not a plow in sight, so it just shut everything down.
Yeah, Mark Moss, that's who I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Mark's a great guy. I think Corey just sent me pictures of the snow in Louisiana. Holy moly. I don't know if
yeah. That's crazy, man. And he lives over in Gonzales, which is still kind of in southern Louisiana. So,
ooh, that's a good one. This is a street view.
Oh yeah, I heard that they shut down I-10, which is the main highway going across the southern part of Louisiana.
Yeah, went right through Tallahassee.
Yeah,
that's how we would get over to New Orleans, is I-10. Crazy, but so wow. Well, stay warm, man. It is just bitterly cold here. The feels like temperatures like -10 right now. Just had to take my wife to PT this morning, and warming up the car took a long time.
Oh man, I bet.
So she has doctor's appointment follow-up tomorrow and another PT on Thursday. So hopefully it starts to warm up a little bit, but she really needs to get those staples out tomorrow. So hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, Scott, I don't know how y'all live up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's my own fault. I moved to Florida. I lived there for 4 years. And it was so brutally hot down there, I couldn't take it. So, it's either you're cooped up in the summer down there or you're cooped up in the winter up here.
Yeah, true enough.
Well, let's hit some news bites real quick, and then we'll get into our top 5. The rumors are true. Ricky Garard is now a proven athlete. It was announced by Proven yesterday. I hate it. I hate it with every piece of fabric in my being. I've said this a million times on this show. I'm friends with Justin Kotler, and I think what the chance that Justin took with him coming off the drug suspension, and his performance has been elite ever since he's been with Justin. The only times he didn't do well is when he got hurt. So the reason for the move just doesn't make any sense to me. And I am loyal to a fault. So that like just kills me.
So do you think his loyalty lies now more with the fact that he's with somebody who's from Australia, who has been a CrossFit champion for 7 times, rather than keeping his loyalty with the guy that actually took a chance on him?
That's the way it looks on the outside, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because
it's funny. I knew a kid in high school one time. Sorry to kind of take away from that, but I not to take away from it because it has to do with loyalty. And I knew a kid that had made a commitment to a college coming out of high school, and because of whatever reason, his dad had gone to this other university. He just dropped that one university who he had already committed to, and went to the father's university. Which to me, I'm like, if you give your word to go somewhere, and of course this was all before NIL and all that kind of stuff, then you go where you're supposed. You go where you say you're going to go.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't even know if people know this. I think like Justin took on Benny Garard as a coach in addition to Ricky as an athlete. So like they did a lot for that family. Justin traveled to Australia to be with him during Torian, did all that kind of stuff. And then just because your new training partners are proven, now you've,
yeah, but it is what it is. I mean, that's his decision. That's his road to go down.
I am definitely not a fan at this point. But I'm sure he'll have others, and he doesn't really care what I think at the end of the day.
Well, same. I mean,
so last night we had a national championship game. Ohio State with the victory. 2 different times during that game, I was ready to go to bed. And as I went to go up the steps, Notre Dame scored. And I was like, oh, crap. Now I can't go to bed. They made it a little bit closer at the end, but at the end of the day, Ohio State was just way too much. Now I've got to live in a town with the national championship team, and that's what I've got to hear about for the next 365 days. And I'm sure
I did not watch the
game on Cloud 9. Judy Reed is a huge Buckeye fan, so I'm sure she's super happy. Amy, my co-host on the roundtable, will be ecstatic as she is a graduate of OSU. But yeah, that's what I'll have to live with for the next year. And there it is. Penn State just need to play better in the Final Four.
Yeah, I'm wearing the burnt orange, even though it says Good Dudes. UT needed to play or University of Texas needed to play just a little bit better, and maybe would have got there. But Ohio put a shellacking on us.
What's cool to me is over the weekend with the NFL games and that game, I was 4-1 on outright winners, and with the line, I was 3-2. So not a bad record for the weekend. I didn't place a bet on any of them. Just picked them on the show to see how I do. But yeah, I'll take 4-1 and 3-2 over the weekend on my picks.
Yeah.
Would be nice if I had some money with that, but no. And then the biggest news in my household was the Chicago Bears uncharacteristically got aggressive and went after the coach that they wanted as the new head coach, laid down the money, and hopefully this is a sign of change as Ben Johnson was named the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. He's in Chicago today signing a contract, and it looks like Dennis Allen will be his defensive coordinator, which excites me a lot. So he has an experienced defensive coordinator to come with him since this is his first foray into head coaching. But that made me extremely happy yesterday. And I think it's the start of Caleb Williams' ascension into a much better quarterback.
I don't know a lot about him. I mean, I know that, with Detroit going so far in the playoffs this year, he must have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Course,
Corey Leonard, we're just glad Dennis Allen is gone from NOLA. Well, you have to admit, before he was a head coach, he was a really good defensive coordinator. We didn't hire him as head coach. We're bringing him in as defensive coordinator. So we're cool with that. Now go ahead. Sorry, Jay Birch. Go ahead.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. It's all right.
Now Corey's just trying to pick a fight. Caleb Williams was, and will be highly overrated. We may not be friends anymore now.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. As far as Detroit goes, of course, their head coach, Dan Campbell, he grew up not but about 40 miles from me here in Hamilton. So even though I'm a Dallas heart, through and through kind of fan, because Dan played for the Cowboys and because he's a Texan, I had to root for Detroit this year. So hate to
I wanted them to win this year because they've never been to the Super Bowl. I just wanted somebody new. So yeah, that was not what I was looking for the other night when they lost. So last thing I'm going to say, and we're going to talk about this much more in the Sunday Night CrossFit Talk. If you did not see the Rich Froning podcast yesterday, they talk about the Mayhem Classic a lot. And in there's kind of a leak, and it's been out on Dense Updates and Barbell Spin and Hiller and everybody else, but that there could be a last chance qualifier this year. There's one spot left on both sides, the men and the women. And that will go to a last chance qualifier. Carolyn has very strong thoughts about the fact that these camps know about these things before the athletes do. And so I'm going to let her go off on Sunday night about that.
Well, and don't they only have 20 male and 20 female spots that they're going to do for the semifinal?
So that's where I'm confused. I thought it was 18 in-person semis, 12 open, 12 online. I don't know what the numbers are now to get to last chance qualifier. So that one has to come from one of them. So I just don't know which one that is. Yeah. Man, I have this dry spot in my throat. Larry Young, she doesn't seem pleased about anything going on this season. I think it's a lot of change, and it's just hard to understand for an athlete and it's hard to plan when there's all these last minute changes. And for someone who's trying to make it back to the games, that's really frustrating. But I'll let her speak for herself because she does that very well. So let's get into the top five Tuesday, top TV shows of all time. We'll count them down from 5 to 1. And then afterwards, if you have any honorable mentions, we'll talk about that. And I always let the guest goes first. So these could not be sitcoms. These could not be half-hour shows. These were either series or miniseries. And we'll leave it at that.
All right.
I'll start off with Jay Birch. Let's go.
All right. So my number 5 was a show called Mind Hunters. So I'm not for sure if you're familiar with it, but it was a show that.
My favorite.
What's that?
My wife would probably have that in her top 5.
And so it wasn't very long lasting, but it took a realistic look at how the profiling in the FBI kind of started, looking at serial killers and stuff like that. And me personally, I thought the acting was great. I mean, it wasn't real slow, in its development of story. And I mean, I thought it was a really good show.
And that it takes place in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. See, we both grew up just north of Pittsburgh, so that she probably has an affinity for it with that in addition to it. So, Kenneth says, first season was great. Second season was good. A lot of the shows that I had in my mind that I did not put on my list, I loved like the beginning of, and it at some point jumped the shark, and that ruined it for me. Like Designated Survivor is a great example. Season 1 into 2 was amazing, but season 3 was so bad. It left a horrible taste in my mouth and would have removed it. And I hope that's not on your list, but
no.
Okay. So my number 5 is an old show from the 80s. It's a show called Wise Guy.
Yeah.
And what it was there was for lack of a better term, a kid named Vinny Terranova who grew up in New Jersey, and was a law enforcement officer that they made become kind of like a street thug. And he built up a reputation, even went to jail to set himself up so that he could go undercover and infiltrate the mob.
And didn't he have a brother?
His brother was a priest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which complicated things a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Because he couldn't even tell his family that he was going undercover, because he really lived this life to make it believable when he got pulled into the mob. And I think it was on for like 5 seasons, and each season was its own storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd finish the season, and then he'd be off to like the next thing. One of my favorite shows of all time. And I've even watched it in the last few years, and it still holds up, which you cannot say for every 80s show.
Right.
But it still holds up today, and it's really good.
Yeah, that's whenever I made my list, I kind of looked at things that, would I go back and rewatch them now? And whenever I watch them, does the cinematography, does the action, does everything kind of still hold up, or does it look cheesy? And so that's Wise Guy is probably the same way.
What helps it is it's not really an action show. It's a character driven show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. And so that helps like the older shows stand up, because you're not relying on special effects or anything like that. There's some shootouts and stuff that probably could be done better today, but for the most part, it is a character driven show.
So one of the things you're going to find is probably with my list, it's somewhat in the forensic detective, murder mystery kind of vein. And so my number 4 pick is True Detective.
All
HBO
of them?
series.
Or was there one in particular?
Season 1, I really liked.
That's the Harrelson.
That's the Harrelson, and yeah. The one with Colin Farrell, it was kind of slow. I didn't really like that one. And then this last season, the one that was in Alaska. Yeah. I like that one. So
okay. Those are weird, man.
Yeah,
They're
they
really
are.
good. They're really good. But yeah, I could see why that would make it for some people. But I think that like even nationally, um, it's split. Like whether you either love it or you hate it. But Kenneth says my top season in all of TV is True Detective season 1. That one was insane.
Yeah,
The Woody
it
Harrelson,
was.
Matthew McConaughey one, man, that was so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to know what my other number 4 pick that was probably more series than really kind of like those little vignettes, it would have been Mad Men.
Okay. I never dove down the Mad Men path. But I've heard it's exceptional.
It was really good up and up until the last few seasons, I guess. After you kind of find out that Don Draper is like not Don Draper anymore, it gets kind of weird.
Okay.
But yeah.
My number 4 is an Apple TV series called Ted Lasso.
Okay.
I've watched it 3 times the whole way through. It is one of the most endearing, character-driven shows. And I've talked a lot about the show Shrinking, which I don't think is old enough to put on this yet because it hasn't stood the test of time. But it's the same writers from Ted Lasso to do Shrinking. And so
Awesome.
Ted Lasso is number 4. I'm actually surprised. I thought it would be higher, but it's not. So it falls in at number 4. Jason Sudeikis, amazing show. If you have not seen it, like you had to.
Yeah, I still need to watch it.
You haven't watched it? Oh, it's so good. It's all about an American football coach going to England to coach a soccer team.
Okay.
And he doesn't even know the rules, but he's a leader of men, right? So they hire him in to try to get him to change things.
All right. Yeah, I definitely need to put that on my list.
So good.
All right. So number 3 is The Sinner for me. Another weird one, I know, but it does kind of keep with the same because you've got Jeff Daniels kind of playing that same character throughout. But the first season I really liked, and well, actually all the seasons I thought flowed well in it.
I've never seen it. I love Jeff Daniels.
It's a murder mystery kind of thing. It kind of, it starts out and you think it's one person and then he come to find out it's somebody else. I think it was produced by who's Justin Timberlake's wife?
Okay. That is Blake Lively?
No.
Nope. No, it's not. Shoot. I know who. Yeah.
Surely somebody in the chat knows.
Jessica
Biel. That's it.
Jessica Biel. There we go.
Yeah, she produced it. And it does an excellent job. I mean, I think she directs a little bit in it, but just a well done kind of murder mystery series, in my opinion.
That's awesome. I'll have to check it out because I love Jeff Daniels.
Yeah. Not Alba, Sarah. Could be Jessica Rabbit, Corey.
There you go. My number 3 is also a mob show. Some people probably have it higher on the list than number 3. My number 3 is The Sopranos. I really The first couple seasons with the mother were some of the best TV ever on. When the mother dies, I think it dips a little bit and it takes away the psychiatrist piece of it, but still great television. But the first 2 seasons, amazing.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Scott, on all pieces of that, because I did put The Sopranos at number 2. That was my number 2 pick.
Okay.
And all for the same reasons. I just, it's the worst part about that entire series is the last scene.
Oh,
and I've watched documentaries about David Chase and kind of, what he was going with there. And, basically this is how it's going to end. And that's the way it was. And there's no backstory to it. It's just, that's the way he wanted to end it.
What I've heard, it's up to you how you want it to end.
Right. How you interpret that.
I did see something with Steve Perry from Journey saying that he did not want to have a family die to his song.
I can see that.
Kenneth asks, you guys watched the prequel movie that came out in the last few years? I did.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
No, I didn't think it was very well done.
Yeah, you don't even get to the characters of the Sopranos till the last 5 minutes.
Right. And I mean, James Gandolfini's son did an okay job in it, but I mean, as far as the show itself, I wasn't real impressed.
Yeah. Nowhere near as good as the show. So my number 2 needs a little so you asked me a long time ago when I was talking about Taylor Sheridan if I liked him or the guy who did Sons of Anarchy and the Mayans.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
My true crush in this endeavor is
Kurt Sutter is the other guy.
Kurt Sutter. Well, is my crush is Aaron Sorkin.
Okay.
So Aaron Sorkin did 4 television shows and he did 2 movies early in his career. Now he's done some other movies since, but his first 2 movies were A Few Good Men and The American President. And then he did shows The Sports Night, West Wing, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, and Newsroom. Those 4 Aaron Sorkin shows would be in my top 5. I actually binged. I start from Sports Night and go to Newsroom a couple times in my life, and I do it every couple years. So number 2, I had to pick one to represent the whole kit and caboodle. And so I picked West Wing. It was the longest running series. And what I loved about the show is each show was independent of the other than like a little string to kind of get you from place to place. And I work in government and they were inept. That cast, they never got anything accomplished while he was in office. They would run into hurdle after hurdle after hurdle and try to overcome them. And I felt like it was more realistic than a government that actually would get stuff done. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm going with West Wing as my number 2.
Awesome. I can see that. Yeah, Aaron Sorkin, definitely good TV. Well, my number 1 is a bit of a sentimental.
Jody Lynn has never seen The Sopranos, has never seen West Wing.
I know. She's so sheltered.
I know. Upstate New York, man, they just don't get into that stuff.
No, they're all out looking at the leaves changing. I don't know what's going on up there.
Building cabinets.
Yeah, building cabinets, putting in new kitchens. building cabins.
Yeah.
All right. So number one. So my number one pick is a show from the 80s. I think it's probably one of the most nostalgic and one of the movies that are series that I probably play more than any other. I know it almost word for word as far as the script goes. I've seen it so many times, and that's Lonesome Dove. Being a young man growing up on a ranch, having that is kind of in my past. Also, I have a cousin who he's a second cousin who's a Western author. His name's Elmer Kelton. He kind of put me onto that genre of Western as well, which is more kind of that true epic sense of a Western. And I just think it's probably one of the best written shows ever.
So I've seen it, but I will tell you, I have a natural distaste for Westerns.
That's fine.
And it's because my mom watched every Western known to man.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the Sacketts, and I've seen Lonesome Dove, and I've seen every episode of Bonanza, and I've seen, like, she watched all of those. Gunsmoke, I've seen every episode of Gunsmoke. Like I was so inundated with it that when I got to choose my own shows, it was not that.
I totally understand.
Jody says never saw that either. And she says, I'm in Connecticut, Scott. Upstate New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont. That's all the same. It's all where the leaves are pretty and you get good ice cream, right?
One of those wee little states, the small ones,
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Connecticut's awesome.
I always thought I'd love to go up there.
My number one, because my first love is crime drama. And you can tell by like my mob stuff, and the show that did it better than anybody else was NYPD Blue.
Okay. Yeah. I actually thought about that one. Because I love that show.
Andy Sipowicz, he would like that show. When you see the stresses of what being a cop every day put on these men and the struggles they went through because of it, and they depicted it in a real sense for the first time. Before that, it was Dragnets and Adam 12s and everything was rosy and peachy for cops, and this was like the first time it got gritty for a cop, right? And what they had to do, and that sometimes you have to take a telephone book and just go upside a criminal's head and to get him to tell you what he needs to tell you, right?
Yep.
So I actually
I forget what
on DVD.
I forget what the police sergeant was in there, kind of a big, burly, bald-headed guy. But I remember one scene where he just got so frustrated, like snapped his chair into a million little pieces.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad there was no mention of Friends. Kenneth, did you not listen out the top where we said no sitcoms? No sitcoms allowed in this list. This was just like hour-long dramas. I may have to do another one with someone else where we actually do sitcoms.
Yeah.
But this one was just, and I apologize. I should have had Breaking Bad on my list. I don't know why I forgot it completely. Because Kenneth had it in there. It would not be number one, but it would be up there. Wise Guy would probably fall off. And I might even put it above Sopranos.
I had Breaking Bad as another number 2, but here's the thing about Breaking Bad. As a chemistry teacher, if I had one comment, I had a million comments about. So, Mr. Birchfield, are you like Heisenberg? Can you make meth? Afraid not.
I can see where that would get old real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would move Breaking Bad up to number 3.
Yeah.
I did have one honorable mention in addition to the 5 I had, and I would put Better Call Saul pretty close to the top 5, maybe not in the top 5. But one honorable mention is Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
I thought that television series was better than the movie, and I thought that they did a really good job depicting family life and kids' problems in high school. I thought they did a really good job with that, just kind of around a football team. But it was never really about the football team.
Interesting factoid. They filmed that in the same town I was teaching at. And some of the footage of the football field was actually the football field of the school where I taught.
The Dillon football team, or would it have been like some of the others?
Yeah, I guess it would have been Dillon. It would have been one with the P. It's supposed to be the Permian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because none of that was filmed in Odessa.
Jody Lynn, I'll never go to a car wash and not think of money laundering again. You had an honorable mention too, right? Or even like an alternate list.
I had an alternate list. And so my alternate list, I'll just run through them right quick, was number 5, The Wire, number 4, Mad Men, 3, Game of Thrones, 2, Breaking Bad, and then number 1, Sopranos.
Okay. I've never seen Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I've tried. I've tried.
But if you don't like that kind of, fantasy genre of stuff, maybe hard to get into.
I put myself in moral dilemma so many times. It took me 3 watchings to get into The Sopranos before my morals would let me get into The Sopranos. Game of Thrones, the first couple episodes, I could not get past the first couple episodes.
Outlander. That's one of my wife's favorite shows. I call it Scottish, whatever. Yeah. But once you kind of get past that, it really does have a good storyline too. And it's kind of interesting how they traverse their way through history.
Well, no, and I'm glad I got through Sopranos to actually see it all through. But sometimes I hit these things in my head and I've got to reconcile it before I can move on.
Yeah.
Kenneth says Lost was great for me. That's another one that the first 3 seasons were fantastic. The last 2 seasons, meh. And I think the last 2 seasons ruined it for me to where I just couldn't. It's a great show, but not top 5. No sitcoms is the only rule. That is correct, Corey. Good thing you didn't have me on this show, on this topic. I've never seen 90% of these shows. Yeah.
Well, Jody, you could have made your own list and then we could see what you are watching.
Right. We'll get you on for something, Jody. We just got to find the right topic. Hey, I've been called a yuppie before, but just not recently. So with Lonesome Dove and the curly mustache, and do you take some of your look from that show? Or
I don't really take it from the show. I take it from the culture that I kind of grew up in.
Okay.
Because where I live is a lot of ranches and stuff. And my grandparents had an 800-acre ranch here in Hamilton that I pretty much grew up on. I used to ride, rope a little bit, work cows all the time. And before I became a teacher, Stephenville, which is supposed to be the cowboy capital of the world, is where I went to college. But I used to do work with cattle and stuff like that over there. So it's just kind of part of my culture.
So my last question is, have you seen Yellowstone?
Have I seen the show Yellowstone? Yeah, I've seen all of it.
Okay. So you have Lonesome Dove as number one. Yellowstone didn't make your list. Do you like the way Yellowstone went with it or not?
Because I'm so close to the way that world works, it's kind of like Landman too, because I've had family that's worked in the oil field too. It's one of those things that I have to just kind of shut off what I know and just look at it for entertainment.
Gotcha.
And so I would say that Yellowstone's good entertainment. So is Lonesome Dove, but it's just different to me. I put them in different boxes.
Okay, cool. Kenneth says Jay Birch is basically ripped from Yellowstone. I've been compared to worse. I'd take that, Jay Birch.
Yeah.
Corey going for his top 5: Doctor Who, Top Gear, Strike Back, The Mandalorian, working on a 5th. Man,
All right, I go with that list.
You're into the sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm all about the Mandalorian too.
I love the Mandalorian. Yeah. I think I just naturally like. There's so many Star Wars fanatics in my family. Like I always say that I'm a bigger Indiana Jones fan than Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And so I like push back on the Star Wars stuff sometimes, but the Mandalorian was great.
Yeah.
I've never seen Doctor Who, but
I remember the old Doctor Who that used to be on PBS. But
yeah. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
But it is time to get back to work. Lunch hour is over. With that, guys, thank you so much for being here. Drop your top 5 shows into the comments, and we'll take a look at those maybe throughout the week. I want to thank Jay Birch for being here again. What an awesome dude. It's so good to get to know you better. And maybe we'll have you back for another top 5 on another Tuesday.
You bet. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. With that, we'll see everybody next time on Lunch with the Clydesdale. Bye, guys.